Thank you. Thanks for being here. I want to say thank you literally to each and every one of you for being leaders in your own respective communities. As you know, how many of you are elected for the first time and are representing your community for the first time? I mean, look at that. That's probably, thank you, that's probably 30% of the room at least that are here. And what you have discovered is what others who've been at this for a while know. From the moment you got elected, people you don't even know suddenly have a bad impression of you. And that's just the nature of it. And some of you knew that coming in. Some of you have learned that the hard way. But those of you who've been to this rodeo time and again know this to be the case. And yet you've done this anyway. Why? Because you're willing to serve. And that's what this boils down to. At the end of the day, one of the two of us is going to be the next governor. That's it. I mean, I wish you could take the best of me, the best of him, the best of yourselves, the best of whoever else you'd want, but it doesn't work that way. You're going to get all of me or all of him. It's just that simple. And that's going to be the decision. It's a binary choice, and there are fundamental issues. And you can see in here, I can sit here and blow smoke all I want. I can promise you all sorts of things. At the end of the day, there is a cost to everything, and you understand this. As a brief reminder, my background is a pretty simple one, not unlike a lot of yours. I was the second of 6 kids. We grew up well below the poverty level. Shared a bedroom with my 3 brothers my whole life growing up. In a house with no central heat, we never had a shower, we never had a television. Drove around in $100 rusted out cars. You know, wow, I don't tell you that for a sad song. It's frankly a story that a lot of you personally could relate to. But the fact of the matter is, I don't come at the approach of the need we have in this state, and you've heard mention of a lot of the needs we have. It's real. I'm not sympathetic toward people in need. I'm not sympathetic toward people in poverty. I'm not sympathetic toward people without health care coverage. I'm empathetic. I know that world. It's where I grew up. It's how I grew up. The reason I am doing this job, the reason I'm fighting for this job, I was asked early on, why do you want to be governor? It wasn't so much that I wanted to be as much as I am willing to be. This is, I'm guessing, in large measure, if not entirely, why you all are in this room. Because you're willing to take the heat. You're willing to get your teeth kicked in. You're willing to make hard decisions. Some of you stepped into communities where there are water problems, where there are infrastructure problems, where there are massive financial deficits. Some of you who just raised your hand a moment ago literally ran and volitionally stepped into positions knowing that you were going to have to deal with the mess that was left behind. That's exactly where I came into this picture. There was a tremendous mess left behind by those that preceded me. All that glitters is not gold. Are there huge costs coming down on you as it relates to pensions? You bet. Because the reality is there's a whole lot of people retired. It's as simple as that. This idea that you're going to be given relief from the cost of what it is a lie. It's not true. You may be given relief, but not really. All that is kicking the can down the road. That is what we have done over and over again. Nobody likes the idea of paying more into the system. But as a reminder, I'm the only governor in the history of Kentucky ever to fully fund the pension systems. Ever. The ARC, the actuarially required contribution, you know, here's the thing. In all seriousness, thank you for the applause. You should not have to applaud for that. You really shouldn't. It should be expected. I'm as serious as I can be. You should not have to clap for people doing what they're elected to do. And the fact that no governor before me ever did it, and the previous governor sometimes didn't even put in 50% of the ARC, spent a lot of money on other things to make people happy, to buy votes and to get people reelected. And that may seem to work until suddenly there's no money left. The reason things like the I-69 bridge was being promised, the only reason you could even begin to promise that could be done in the next cycle of a governor is because the environmental study and an engineering study are being done under this administration after 20 years of people blowing smoke and telling people it was going to get done. And it never got done. I mean, here, again, do I have all the answers? No. Do I have promises to give all of you and give you sweet nothings? No, I don't. But I'm telling you this, I will be a fiscally responsible person, as I have been. And sometimes it's tough love, and that's true. Sometimes the truth is no fun. But these lies about things that I've supposedly said is absolute rubbish, and you know it. Absolute rubbish. Here's the wonderful thing. We live in a day and age where everybody has one of these. All of these things are being recorded all the time. I will tell every single one of you right now, every one of you has heard somebody say that I've called people thugs, I've said this about teachers or what have you. Nonsense. You've heard it. Some of you have said, I've heard it myself. You've read it. You've read that it was said. I'll offer $1,000 in cash to any single person in this room if you find any audio or video evidence whatsoever, ever, of me having said that. It's never happened, ever. It's a lie. It's perpetuated by people who want to tell you stuff to get into this seat. This is not, someone asked me, is it easy to be the governor? It's not easy. Of course not. But it's simple. And I'll tell you why it's simple. Because I was raised to tell people the truth. Sometimes that hurts. Sometimes it's not easy. I don't wake up in the morning and say, am I going to tell the truth or not? Am I going to be corrupt or not? Am I going to mislead people or not? My Judeo-Christian faith defines my entire worldview. As a husband, as a father, as a business person, now as a governor, not everybody agrees with it. Not everybody shares it. But in this race, it's these economic issues. It's a function of infrastructure. The reason we have these poor grades on our infrastructure is because the governors before me, especially the one right before me, did nothing to fix these bridges. I came in, there were $6 billion in unfunded liability, in unfunded deferred maintenance, forgive me, is the term I'm looking for. $6 billion in deferred maintenance on bridges alone. We're in the process right now of fixing 1,000 of them. In many of your communities, we just have let 400 contracts. Again, you never cut a ribbon on this. Nobody ever gets political credit for this because you don't get to show up and cut a ribbon typically. But fixing these bridges has got to be done. You know this. The monies that are controlled by your communities are not enough. No question about it. One thing I've been clear about, we have increasingly, for those of you that happen to be in coal counties, given more and more dollars back to the coal county communities. I'm telling you right now, not only have you seen that happening, as you've had more and more control of those dollars, we are in a position right now where the state's going to help you this way or that way. And I would frankly rather have local communities have as much control of the money as possible. You've already seen that happening. For those of you who happen to be in coal counties, I can tell you right now, in my next budget, and we're working already to make it happen. I've had this conversation with many of you. Talk about doors being open. My door has been open, and you know this. There are many of you as judge executives who've never, prior to me, ever been able to sit down and talk to a governor before. My door is always open, and I've met many of you many times. I'm telling you right now, in the next budget and in budgets beyond, 100% of the coal severance money is going to go back to the counties that it comes from. 100% of it. And here's the thing, the sad reality, that's a small percentage of what it once historically was, but it makes a big difference in your communities. There's issues as well. We talk about how things are so tough. Yeah, of course they're tough, but they were a whole lot tougher 4 and 8 and 12 years ago. They really were. We didn't see any improvement in infrastructure or in job creation until the last 3.5 years. There are more people working in Kentucky than ever before. Lowest unemployment, but more importantly, highest level of workforce participation. We've had $20 billion in private capital invested in this state in the last 3.5 years. There's never been an 8 or 10 year period where we had that kind of capital invested. Those are seeds in the ground. That doesn't make fruit pop out automatically. But I'm telling you, fruit is going to be born. It's already starting to happen. Those of you that are in places like Western Kentucky, year after year, people were promised this, that, and the other thing. We saw the Verso plant shut down. Took us a while. We've talked to 7 different people before we found somebody to restart that. You've seen it. 200 and some odd people back at work already, making product. That plant is continuing to grow, investments being made. We've seen new investments from people like Brady in the east, Amazon in the north, Nucor in the central/western part of the state. These are multi-billion-dollar investments being made. They're touching your communities. Those of you that are from communities like Hazard, you're starting in Perry County to be a resurgence of things. Companies bringing in 265 jobs from an aluminum company out of Canada. These are real things. These aren't hypothetical. Again, one of the two of us is going to sit down across the table from a CEO of a company somewhere at some point in the next 4 years and negotiate on behalf of Kentucky. fighting to get them here. One of the two of us, you're going to have to decide which of them you would have it to be. These are economic things, and economic things matter, but there are social issues that matter too. And I am unapologetically pro-life. That is a huge difference between the two of us on this stage. Huge difference. And the fact that in order for you to win this primary, you needed the most activist pro-abortion people in America to come here, stump for you, grassroots for you, and endorse you. NARAL and Planned Parenthood, they're on your side. You're happy to take their money and their support. They will never support me, and I'm proud of that fact. Proud of that fact. This is, again, there is no perfect candidate. Neither of us nor anyone that will ever put themselves forward. No more than any of you was the perfect candidate. But each of you is willing to come to the table and bust your tail. This is exactly what I pledge to you. I'll do it to the best of my ability. There are hard decisions that have yet to be made. The reason costs of pensions are going up is because the cost is going up. We have ignored for years the true cost of what it takes. It is not possible to keep ignoring it. To give relief means to kick the can down the road, which means eventually the money runs out. There haven't been, we've seen, you talk about how I don't love social workers. My gracious, I'm the only one in more than 10 years to give them any increase in pay. It never happened under your father, ever. You know, if all this love for people, transportation workers have gotten their first increases in years. People who take care of, parole, and people who are supervising, those out on pardon. I mean, people who are on, probation. These officers that are dealing with them are seeing their first pay increases. People who are on our highways, people who are our social workers and caseworkers, our Kentucky State Police, the CLEF funds, which are dedicated to providing for law enforcement officers. This is monies that we pay on our insurance policies specifically for them. The previous governor, won't mention his name, but you've just heard it a moment ago, $117 million he swept out of that law enforcement money. They never saw a POP certification increase under him or, frankly, the previous two governors, either 21 years before I got elected, since they'd seen an increase. 100% of that money has gone to law enforcement officers since I've been elected. I'm also the only governor in the history of Kentucky to put 100% of the lottery money toward education, which is what we've told you it's supposed to go to. Only one to fund it. I'm the only governor to ever fund the pensions for teachers and everyone else. The only one to never sweep the lottery funds. Put 100% of it to education. There's more money going into the classrooms in the SEEK formula now than ever in the history of Kentucky, both per pupil and absolute numbers. These are just facts. Is everything perfect? Is everything simple? Is everything kumbaya for everybody all the time? Of course not. But are we moving in a different trajectory? Yes. Do we have a credibility on the national and global stage? Yes, like never before. Do you want a governor who has a personal friendship and relationship, business and professionally, with the White House, with the President of the United States? I have a personal friendship and a professional relationship with the President and the Vice President, and we have somebody who just this week says that he's going to actively fight against the policies of President Trump. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I mean, you got to, and in all seriousness, let's say this ends up being our next governor. Do you want a governor who's fighting against the president of your own country? No matter what your party, no matter what your politics. This is a binary choice. I ask for your vote. I'd be grateful for your vote. It's a privilege for me to serve you. It's not easy. I'll close with this. Many of you have grown up in a rural environment. These years we're in right now, these are the barn cleaning years. Any of you who've grown up working on a farm, in the springtime after a long winter, you got to shovel out the barn. It's not easy, it's not fun, doesn't smell good, your hands hurt, your back hurts. Nobody wants to participate and help, but the barn needs to be cleaned out. We have had a long political winter in this state, and we are cleaning out the barn. Someone at some point in the future will ride the pony. I believe there's a pony under here, that's why I'm still shoveling. But the bottom line is you've given me this opportunity. I'm grateful to you for this opportunity. I'm asking you to give me this opportunity again, because I'm telling you, the best days in front of us are going to be so much better than the best days we've seen. The future is bright indeed. May God bless you, and may God continue to shed His grace on the United States of America and on the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you.